Hi, hello, welcome to Vital Biology. This is Padma. In this video, we will continue the breathing and exchange of gases. So, in the previous classes, we have discussed about the passage of the respiratory system and how exactly various muscles are involved in the mechanism of respiration. So, as a part of that, we have discussed that from the external environment, when we will inhale air, yes, definitely, the air from the external environment, from the atmosphere, it moves into our lungs. But in that inhaled air, we know that not only oxygen but various other gases also can be seen, like along with the oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, argon, like that various other gases also present in that mixture. Okay, so from that mixture of gases only we have to take the oxygen, because as earlier we have studied about the definition of respiration, that is breakdown of the food material. Okay, so whatever the food which reaches to the cell, definitely it has to break down, and that too, that is in presence of oxygen. Okay, so for that breakdown, definitely our cells need oxygen supply. Okay, and as a result of that, once the food got breakdown, yes, definitely it liberates energy. But along with that energy, we know that one of a waste, respiratory waste also can be observed here, that is carbon dioxide. That should be eliminated outside. So altogether here we understood that from the atmosphere, from the mixture of all those gases, our cells need only oxygen. At the same time, as a part of this cellular respiration, whatever the waste, that is carbon dioxide, is released, that should be released outside. Exchange means, yes, definitely one which we need, that should be taken, and the other which is not required, that should be eliminated. So in this way the exchange actually occurs. But in this respiration, there are two main regions where this exchange process occurs. Okay, two main regions are actually seen where exactly this exchange process occurs. So exchange especially occurs in between these two gases only, that is oxygen and the carbon dioxide. Okay, so this exchange process occurs mainly the first region, that is of the alveoli and the blood vessels. Okay, alveoli and the blood vessels. As we know that whatever the air which traveled through all that respiratory passage up to the alveolus. Okay, up to the alveolus, alveolar duct, and the sac or a bag-like structure which we told, that is of the alveolus. Okay, if it is a plural, so that is nothing but the alveoli. And surrounding to these alveolus, yes, the smallest tiny blood vessels are present. Okay, so here this is the blood vessel. Okay, so here you can see that, yes, these are the alveoli which are surrounded by the blood vessels. Okay, and here these blood vessels are actually bringing the deoxygenated blood from the tissues. Just now we have studied, yes, in the inhaled air or from the inhaled air, we have to take the oxygen. At the same time, whatever the metabolic waste, that is especially here the CO2 which is released inside these cells, that should be also eliminated. Okay, so that is why here if you observe in this blue color, so it is indicating that deoxygenated blood is supplied to the lungs, that is nearer to this alveolar region. Okay, that is what here they told venous blood. Venous blood means deoxygenated blood, okay, which is rich in CO2 but very less concentrations of the oxygen is seen. Such a blood is called as the deoxygenated blood. So the deoxygenated blood is taken towards the alveolar region, and here you can see that, yes, in this alveolus and in this alveoli and a blood vessel. So here the exchange is taking place. Whatever the CO2 which is more in this blood, so here you can see it will move into the alveoli. Okay, in the alveoli, and from the alveoli, whatever the oxygen which is present, yes, that is moved towards the blood. Okay, so like this, the exchange, the first exchange occurs near the alveoli and the blood vessel. Alveoli and the blood vessel. Okay, now here you can see that. So this oxygen, once it enters into this blood, so it travels through this blood vessel and reaches to the cells. Okay, so this entire region is the cells, that is a tissue region. And here you can notice that oxygen is moved into the cells. Okay, because the main purpose of the oxygen is it helps in breakdown of the food material in the cells. So that's why that oxygen from the blood, it reaches to the cells, and from the cells the carbon dioxide which is generated, yes, it enters into the blood. So in this way the exchange occurs in this second region, that is near the blood and the tissues. Okay, near the blood and the tissues. So these are the two different regions where the exchange actually takes place. Okay, the exchange of gases occurs especially in these two regions. One is the alveolus or the alveoli and the blood vessel, and another region is the blood and the tissues or the cells. Okay. Exchange of gases which occurs between that alveoli and the blood and the cells, and that exchange is mainly based on one of our principal process which is called as the diffusion. Okay, diffusion means the movement of the gases always occurs from high concentration to low concentration, means wherever that particular gas is more, from that region the air or the gas move towards the region where its levels are less. Okay, so that process, that movement is called as the diffusion process. So here the exchange of gases occurs mainly based on this particular principle, that is diffusion process, and the diffusion rate, whether it is speed or a slow, okay, how much the diffusion occurs, that mainly depends on few of the factors. That's why here we told factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. Okay, so here you can see factors which are like affecting the rate of diffusion. So now what are those? So one is the pressure or otherwise concentration gradient. Okay, pressure or concentration gradient. So if any of the gas, if it has to move, yes, definitely there is a need of pressure gradient. Okay, so previously also we are saying the same pressure gradient means nothing but high to low. Means if the air or the gas has to move, yes, definitely at one region it should have a high pressure and another region it should have a less pressure. That pressure gradient is very much playing a crucial role. Another one, solubility of gases. Okay, solubility of gases. Suppose if any of the gas is moving through any of the medium. Okay, so here if our medium is blood, so in that medium, how much it has that soluble nature. Okay, whether it is highly soluble or less soluble or average soluble. So like this, based on the solubility, also solubility of the gases, so that is also one of the key factor which can change this rate of diffusion. Okay, if it has the high soluble nature, diffusion rate will be also high. If it has a low soluble nature, yes, the diffusion rate will be decreased. So like that, yes, definitely the rate of diffusion can be affected by this solubility of the gases. And the third is the thickness of the membrane involved in the diffusion. Okay, so diffusion means definitely it has to travel, it has to move. During that movement, suppose if there is any of the barrier between it, yes, definitely the thickness of that barrier, okay, or the diffusion membrane, whatever we'll say. So that barrier or the diffusion membrane thickness, definitely it matters. If it is more thick, yes, definitely it need more time to diffuse. If it is less thick, yes, definitely the material, that is here the gases can move faster. Okay, so that's why definitely the thickness of this membrane, yes, definitely it affects the rate of diffusion. Okay, so like this, these are the three main factors. So one is the pressure or concentration gradient, another one solubility of gases, and the third, thickness of the membranes involved in diffusion, which is also called as the thickness of the diffusion membrane. Okay. And here one more key word we have to study, so that is partial pressure of gases. Partial pressure of gases. Okay. So what is this partial pressure means? So the pressure which is contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases is called partial pressure. Okay, an individual gas pressure. So up to now we are studying that, yes, external in the environment, atmospheric air pressure. So atmospheric air pressure, in which we are studying about a mixture of gases, how they are have a pressure, okay, that air pressure. So that is the together. But suppose if we will talk about the oxygen pressure, okay, out of that entire atmospheric pressure, how much pressure is exerted by the oxygen, then that will be called as a partial pressure of oxygen. The same way, in the entire atmospheric pressure, if we will only take the pressure of the carbon dioxide, then it is called as a partial pressure of carbon dioxide. That is why here they told the pressure contributed by an individual gas. Okay, in an individual gas, only we are talking about one of the gas pressure. Okay, in a mixture of gases. Okay, that is in the atmosphere if we will take, yes, it is a mixture of gases. In that only if we will study about the pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of oxygen. If we will study about the pressure of carbon dioxide, yes, then it is called as a partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So like that, if individual gas pressure when we will say, then it is called as a partial pressure. So here, this is the picture which is representing the exchange of gases along with the transportation of the gases also. So here, this particular region is actually indicating the alveolar region. See, this is the one of the alveolus, one singular, that's why it is alveolus. Okay, and here, as we know that first exchange region is the alveolus and the blood vessel. Okay, and second exchange region is the tissues. Okay, so here these are the tissues and blood vessels. Okay, so here these are indicating the tissues, this is indicating the alveolus, and you know that this blue color blood vessel is representing the vein, a blood vessel, that is veins, whereas the red color blood vessel is representing, so that is of the artery. Okay, artery. Now in here in the middle you can see this is actually heart structure. Okay, so this is heart. Okay, so this is the right atrium and this is the left atrium. This is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. Like this four chambered heart here we are representing. Now here if you will observe, we have actually mentioned, yes, we have mentioned like this. One is PO2, PCO2, like that we have mentioned. So P indicates here partial pressure of that gas. Okay, P represents partial pressure of that gas. As previously we have discussed, the partial pressure is nothing but the pressure which is exerted by the individual gas in a mixture of gases. Okay, so that's why this is indicated by this P. Okay, P means here partial pressure. So PO2 means here partial pressure of oxygen and PCO2 means partial pressure of carbon dioxide. And so partial pressure of oxygen is 104 mmHg. As we know that, as here we are like studying the pressure of gases. So the units are mm per Hg. mm per Hg. That's why here we told partial pressure of oxygen in the inhaled air. Okay, from the environment when we will inhale the air, in that the partial pressure of oxygen is 104 mmHg. Whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mmHg. Okay, 40 mmHg. Okay, now coming to the blood vessel. Okay, so the blood vessel which brought blood from the tissues. So here we know that this blue color is indicating the veins. So veins are actually collecting the deoxygenated blood. Okay, through the heart. Now those that deoxygenated blood is pumped to the lungs. Okay, deoxygenated blood is collected from the tissues. First it will go to the heart and via heart it will go to the lungs, so that here the exchange can occur and it get oxygenated. Okay, so that's why from the tissues whatever the deoxygenated blood actually travels, in that if we will see the partial pressure of oxygen, the partial pressure of oxygen is 40 mmHg. 40 mmHg. Whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is 45 mmHg. Okay, 45 mmHg. So for that, so here we will see this. Suppose like this. So the blood it is coming here. So here what we told, partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of CO2. Okay, in the blood vessel the partial pressure of oxygen is 40 mmHg. Whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is 45 mmHg. And here in the alveolus we said partial pressure of oxygen is 104 mmHg, whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mmHg. Okay, now we have to compare these two values. Okay, as a part of diffusion factors, one of the factor we have studied is, yes, definitely there should be a concentration gradient. Okay, so that concentration gradient, if you observe, the partial pressure of oxygen is here 104 and here it is 40. Okay, so that is why oxygen from the alveolus, it moves into the blood vessel. It moves into the blood vessel, and the carbon dioxide inside the alveolus is 40 mmHg, 40. Whereas the inside the blood, it is 45. Okay, in blood it is 45. Again, as per the diffusion principle, gases move from higher to low. So higher the partial pressure of CO2 is in the blood, that is 45. Whereas here less. So that's why this CO2 from the blood, it moves to the alveolus. Okay, so this is how the exchange of gases occurs. Okay, that is near the alveolar region. Okay, so we have to keep these values in our mind. So partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of CO2. In alveolus, oxygen 104, carbon dioxide 40. Whereas in the deoxygenated blood or otherwise in the tissues, okay, deoxygenated blood or in the tissues, oxygen partial pressure is 40, whereas the carbon dioxide is 45 mmHg. Okay. Now, once the exchange got finished, so now that oxygen rich blood, it will first move to the heart, and via the heart it travels to the cells, that is to the tissues. Okay. So here this blood vessel, which we are seeing as a systemic artery. Systemic arteries are nothing but arteries which are carrying the oxygenated blood to the body parts. Okay. Such artery is the systemic artery. Now these are carrying the oxygenated blood, because here the oxygen concentration is, the oxygen partial pressure is 95 mmHg. Okay, 95 mmHg. Whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mmHg. 40 mmHg. So here you can see the difference. The partial pressures of oxygen in the oxygenated blood and in the deoxygenated blood. So in the oxygenated blood it is 95 mmHg. Oxygenated. That is why it is oxygenated, because it is oxygen rich blood. So how much it is? 95. Whereas here in the deoxygenated blood, it is just 40 mmHg. So what happened to the remaining oxygen that is utilized by these cells for whatever the definition we have told, that is for the oxidation of the food material. Okay, that's cellular respiration. For that the remaining oxygen got utilized. Okay, and during that process the carbon dioxide is released. So that is why, see here, the partial pressure of CO2 is here, it is 40 mmHg, but coming to this particular part, it became 45 mmHg. So from where this 5 mmHg got increased? Here, after the cellular respiration, okay, once the oxygen utilized for this metabolic process, and by liberating this energy, along with that CO2 also released. So that's why excess of that carbon dioxide which is added, so that will be seen here. That is the partial pressure of CO2 is 45 mmHg, that is inside the deoxygenated blood. Okay, so that is the way how the exchange of gases actually occurs in these two regions, and also the partial pressures how they are vary. So once we will see in the alveolus the partial pressure is of oxygen is 104, in the oxygenated blood 95, in the deoxygenated blood 40. Okay, so partial pressure of oxygen mainly we have to keep in our mind, that is mainly 3. In the alveolus 104, in the oxygenated blood that is 95, whereas in the deoxygenated it is 40. The same way partial pressure of CO2 if we will see. Okay, in the alveolus, yes, it is 40. In the oxygenated blood it is 40, whereas in the deoxygenated blood it is 45. So here only we can see the difference in the deoxygenated blood. It is 45. But the remaining two, that is in the oxygenated and in the alveolus, yes, in both these cases the partial pressure of CO2 is same, that is 40 mmHg. So here, this is near the alveolar region. How exactly the exchange occurs? Near this diffusion membrane. So that's why here we told diffusion membrane, okay, diffusion membrane is made up of mainly 3 major layers. Okay, this entire region is actually forming this diffusion membrane. Where exactly this region is? So this entire structure is the alveolus. Okay, that is why here we told alveolar cavity. So if you observe carefully, so this alveolar region is lined by one cell thick layer. So that is the alveolar wall. This alveolar cavity is lined by one of a membrane which is called as the alveolar wall, which is made up of a specific tissue called as the squamous epithelium. Okay, squamous epithelium. So what is this squamous epithelium? So squamous epithelium is generally the shape of the cells are somewhat flattened. Okay, the flattened cells, and that too these are the simple squamous. Simple means they just arrange in a one of the layer thickness. Single layer thickness. That is why it is said as the simple squamous epithelium. Okay, simple squamous epithelium. So that is the first lining, which is the wall of the alveolar wall. So that is the first. Second is the endothelium. Okay, second layer is the endothelium. So what is this endothelium? Means here, so suppose this is the alveolus. Surrounding to that, we said one of a blood vessel is present. Okay, capillary, blood capillary. So here you can see that the same structure. Okay, so yes. So here you can see this is the, okay, so this entire structure. So this layer, so this layer is nothing but the walls of the, okay, this entire region is actually blood vessel. So this entire region is the blood vessel. So that blood vessel is lined by, again, endothelial lining. Okay, endothelial lining. So this blue color, again, whatever I am marking, so that is the endothelial lining of blood capillary. So this is also nothing but the same type of the tissue, that is of the simple squamous epithelium. Okay, so both the alveolar wall and the wall of the blood capillary, both have a same type of the tissue, that is of the simple squamous epithelium. Simple means when the cells are arranged in a single layer, yes, we can call it as a simple. Squamous, as the cell's shape is flattened, that's why they are of a squamous epithelium. Okay, and between these two, if we will see, one of a basement substance, which I am indicating with this yellow color now. So like this, between the alveolar wall and the blood capillary. Okay, between the alveolar wall and the blood capillary, here you can see one of a substance which is forming a one more layer. So that substance is called as the third, that is of the basement substance. Okay, that can also include as a one of a layer, basement layer. Like this, all together 3 layers are forming the diffusion membrane. Okay, diffusion membrane near the alveolar region. Okay, so once again, as we told that diffusion occurs mainly 2 regions. One is alveolar region and the blood, and another exchange region is the blood and the tissues. So here whatever the, like the diagram here it is representing, that is the first region, that is alveolus and the surrounding blood vessel where the exchange occurs. And here the exchange occurs in this region, and this region is considered as the diffusion membrane, because here this is the membrane through which the gases should diffuse, because the movement here is mainly based on a principle called as the diffusion. So that's why here they told this membrane as the diffusion membrane, and this diffusion membrane is mainly made up of 3 layers. One is the simple squamous epithelium of the alveolar wall, another one is the simple squamous epithelium of the blood capillary, that is the endothelium, and in between these two, one of the basement substance. All the 3 together represents the diffusion membrane. And just now whatever we said, that is the 3 layers, all the 3 layers still, they just, their thickness is less than a millimeter. See here, the simple squamous of the alveolar wall, middle basement substance, and the endothelium of the blood vessel. All the 3 layers together, just the thickness is less than a millimeter. So that much of thin membrane thickness here you can imagine. That much thin membrane here you can see. That is why the movement of gases is, or the exchange of gases is fast. And one more character here, that is solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher. So here you can see it is higher, okay, than that of the oxygen. So here 2 of the main gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide. So whose solubility is more? Carbon dioxide solubility is more. How many times? It is 20 to 25 times is more when compared with the oxygen. Okay, so once again, here they are comparing the solubility of the both the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. So who is having that soluble nature more means that carbon dioxide have more soluble nature. So how much it is more when compared with the oxygen means 20 to 25 times more the soluble nature. Okay, so because of that, actually the whatever the like metabolic waste, the carbon dioxide is released, yes, that can be also can be released outside, and especially the soluble nature of CO2 mainly helps in transportation of this carbon dioxide from the cells to up to the alveoli, which we will study in the next further class. Okay. So this is the way how the solubility of the gas is also playing a major role in the diffusion process. Okay. So that is how the exchange of gases occurs in this alveolar region and as well as at the cellular level.